Hello and welcome back to Thoringer Tanks. Today I want to show you a battle of InfinityShadow from ESPRT in his Tortoise. And the battle happened as a standard on Malinovka. On the team score he had 1399 XP and over 7000, almost 8000 damage. If we look at the detailed report, he received 1563 damage, blocked by armor 1980, and potential damage 3480. And he shot 47 shots and penetrated 22 of those. And that is mainly due to what he was facing. He was shooting out with an E100 for a longer time, also shot several on the T95, and they bounce quite frequently. And he also had some shots on other tanks that basically tracked and did not penetrate. Well, so much for that. Let's look into the battle. We start here on the west side. And here's the setup of the team. Now there's two typical ways you can go here. You can go north and you can go south. South does not have much cover, if any, especially if there's tanks staying back from the enemy team. And even the heaviest armored vehicles might not stand a chance. Especially if you have scouts on the enemy team, you will just be picked apart. And that happens usually by being tracked, and then it only takes a couple hits and you're done. Now, the instant reward though for going south is that on both sides there's cover from the team, and when you go south and you make it to the other side, the battle can be great. At the beginning you see light tanks from the east side going mainly through that swamp region. You see that light tank up there in the middle, and from the west side you usually see light tanks either spotting where you see the teammate here, spotting in the middle, or they are a little bit closer to the home base. There's a bush, you see it all the way on the right side for a moment, and you can stay in that one as well. There's several bushes actually, and you can spot across the field here. Especially completely upgraded tier 7, tier 8 light tanks have a very good view range for this. Now always remember that your tank tier also matters when it comes to view range in comparison to the enemy. So if you have a tier 6 light tank that might have a theoretical view range of 450 meters, you will still have a penalty in comparison to a tier 10 tank that you might spot on your level, but you do not, or your tier, but you do not spot it because the tier 10 just is above your tier. So the Tortoise makes it over to the other side almost, still working on it, but the enemy pulled too far out and did not expect his team here to push heavily to the south. He takes some blind shots here into the hills, the last position of that Leopard. Doesn't have much luck there, but so does he not with this tank. That T110E5 is taking a lot of shots from him without taking damage. But of course it goes both ways. The Tortoise has a really good armor in the front, and if you're too far away you cannot aim reliably on the weak spots. So the shootout begins. There are several tanks behind that building over there, and the rules of that are fairly simple. The first one blinks, loses. So
With the tortoise, you can basically stand a little bit out in the open. You have the armor for it. As long as you're aimed in, whatever comes around the corner will get it first. Doesn't have much luck here penning, but you see the principle of the game. And that was the third shot fully aimed in that did not do any damage. Sometimes the random number generator, RNG, is just not with you. Now the threat is slowly changing here. You can see that they are still behind the building, but they're not really somewhere where they can shoot at the tortoise either, as long as they don't poke. On the other hand, there's stuff going up there. Still that T110E5, and then there's an E100 here. We tracked him, again no damage. Now keep in mind he still had almost, what was it, 8,000 damage in total? Here a couple shots on that medium tank. And even though he aims at the E100, hits the medium tank's cupola in the front and kills him. So sometimes RNG also works in your favor. E100 is not lit anymore. Still one shot, see if you can hit something. And you see here's quite a semblance of strong allies. They dominate the south. And that is important because that is a constant threat to the enemy team, that they could get outcapped. However, you can shoot from this position up there into the cap zone, so that tank has to go as well. And he doesn't have strong armor, so there you go. One less. So his teammate now does the direct approach onto these tanks that are hiding behind the house to drive them out, and he has some support there. However, these are really bouncy tanks. That M103 is really hard to pen from the front, especially if he doesn't stand still. And you see the player knows that. He's driving back and forth, not standing still, because standing still lets enemies shoot at your weak spots. So you only want to stop once you're loaded to finalize your aim on a tank if it's necessary. But if you're in such a close range as they are up there, you basically can rock the whole time, and you zoom out a little bit and just aim like that. That shot did not hit. And to be able to find a place to shoot the other tanks, he has to move up a little bit. And that was a snapshot that didn't go through on that Foch. Also a dangerous tank, except for its side and back, they're so paper thin. Anybody can aim at them and kill them that way. And that was a really good roll on that. One more shot. And that's it. Like the Tortoise, if you've seen, for Tier 9 Tank Destroyer has a really low alpha, but the fire rate makes more than up for it. And if you have bad RNG, that actually is in your favor, because if, for example, with a JP, Jagdpanzer, yes, the Jagdpanzer on E100, the one you see the rack here in white, if you miss a shot with that, you lose over 1000 alpha in that one shot you did not do as damage. If you miss the shot with a Tortoise, what is it, 350, 400? So you can basically compensate for the loss or the tracking or anything like that that doesn't result in damage when needed with the faster reload. Now, I don't know what the reload is for the JPE 100 once it is like ammo racked or the loader is hit. I can just imagine you're basically dead in the water once you're shot and you have to reload. It's probably beyond a minute. I'm not sure exactly. I don't have that tank, but with that alpha, I can imagine it's very long, and that's just a balancing reason. He's trying to still shoot where that enemy was, but here comes the final fight basically between the tortoise and that E100. And he got lucky, he got a shot off, and you see the alpha basically dictates that the tortoise is now a one shot for the E100. But the E100 has to shoot a PCR to actually do something. The tortoise can attack the face of the front of the turret, and that's why when you play an E100 with that long reload, about 14 seconds if it's fully trained, 13 seconds, 14 seconds, always turn your turret when you reload. Never stay faced to your enemy, because that is the only weak spot you have in the front, is that turret face. And also the bar on top was for a long time, I don't know if it still is, I think it is, can take out your viewport at least, and don't know 100% if it does damage, but it definitely can be hit and it's your viewports. Now, luckily you have a fairly large gun mantlet on that E100, especially with the upgraded gun, and there's a good chance that it actually will scratch in that gun mantlet, change the angle, lose penetration, and therefore won't hit you as hard, and then has almost no chance to still penetrate your frontal armor. However, it is almost 90 degrees, I don't know what it is, 80 degrees or whatever it is, when you face your enemy, and that means that you can be penned there fairly easily. So again, turn your turret away, or that will happen. Okay, now we are close to the end of the battle. I thank you all for watching on Thoriner's channel. Please subscribe, tell your friends, and I see you next time on Thoriner's channel.